Order. Mr. Daniel. Mr. Smith.
Here.
Mr. Hall.
Here.
Mr. Hurt.
Here.
Mr. Hughes.
Here.
Mr. Mayberry.
Here.
Mr. Wagner.
Here.
We have a quorum. First order of business is the election of a committee chairman. Do I hear nominations?
Madam Chairman,
Equal way, Danny.
I'd like to nominate Mr. Mayberry.
Okay.
I'd like to nominate Mr. Hughes.
Are there any more nominations? All right. I will call the roll, and it will be, we will vote on Mr. Mayberry first. Mr. Hall.
Larry Mayberry.
Mr. Hurt.
Mr. Mayberry.
Mr. Hughes.
Pass.
Mr. Mayberry.
Pass.
Mr. Smith.
Mr. Hughes.
Mr. Wagner.
Mr. Mayberry.
Asked if either of the ones that passed want to cast a vote.
Do either one of you that passed want to cast a vote?
I'll cast a vote for Mr. Mayberry.
Mr. Mayberry?
Pass.
Well, Mr. Mayberry, you're chairman.
Okay.
Okay, so you get to swap places with me.
Honored to be chairman of such a
Okay, we won't.
dynamic committee.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
this next item, election, should read vice chair
Yes.
rather than co-chair.
I will entertain a motion for vice chair of the Audit Committee.
I'll nominate Mr. Hughes if he will accept it.
Yep.
A second. Okay, we'll have a roll call. Susan?
Okay. Mr. Hall?
Who's the vice chair?
Mr. Hughes?
Okay, Mr. Hughes.
Mr. Hurt?
Mr. Hughes.
Mr. Hughes?
Pass.
Mr. Mayberry?
Mr. Hughes.
Mr. Smith?
Mr. Hughes.
Mr. Wagner?
Mr. Hughes.
Okay, Mr. Hughes is elected vice chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. The purpose of this meeting is to review the Humphreys County audit from the comptroller. If all of you looked over this and read it, is there any discussion over some of these items? Or, Mr. Executive, do you wish to make any remarks?
Mr. Chairman, the audit had four findings and a recommendation. I believe I'm right on that. The vast majority of these findings are repeat findings. They're found in contrast to all the comptroller's recommendations in 3 areas. There's also a finding relative to vacation records. It was important. It was important to get this. Normally, I'd like to provide a little more time to review the audit. It was just published on December 8th. However, in order to qualify for 3-star participation, you have to have an audit committee meeting during the calendar year, and this is as soon, given publishing deadlines, as we can make that happen without waiting to pass the start of the new calendar year. We didn't participate in 3-star last year, and we may not this coming year, but we certainly wouldn't have if we hadn't got this committee meeting out of the way. Having said that, Audit Committee has design responsibilities. Those responsibilities are outlined in the resolution that created this, that you voted in, I believe last August, I believe, is when that was ratified. So that's all I have to say, Mr. Chairman, until you have any questions.
The county executive has answered all of these, I guess all these audit exceptions from the comptroller's office. Is there any recommendations from the committee or discussion of these items from the committee?
Mr. Wallace, explain to me the findings. Duties were not segregated between your office, the county clerk, the circuit and general sessions, clerk and master. What are they referring to there, and how would your duties overlap theirs?
It's not a question of segregation between those departments. It's a question of segregation of duties within those departments. Again, that comes down to the staffing numbers. Take my office as an example. We failed to meet the requirement for segregation in the way that we operate with billing for the sewer system and with the airport hangar rental. That's about all the money we handle. We do the billing for the airport hangar. Those monies are brought in. They're received by Regina in my office. She does the receipt for that receiving those cash monies. She also does the journal entry in the electronic journal, and then she takes that deposit that same day down at the trustee for inclusion in the overall deposit that she makes. Well, our comptroller would have each of those tasks performed by a different person, and we just don't have the staffing to do it. It's the same in each of these other offices, and basically that's the way that works, and that's why we're found in deficit there each year. And it's the reason that most communities our size, in fact, all communities that I've checked the audit for, have also failed in this. It's just our comptroller has a very specific vision of how he'd like to see counties operate financially, and it's just we require too much on multitasking to have that kind of individual responsibility. Did that answer your question, Mr.
Yes, sir.
Hughes?
Thank you.
Any other concerns, questions, recommendations?
I've got
Observations?
I got a question. Mr. Wallace, did you say, which I wasn't on the commission last year, that there are duties of an audit committee that's already set up, or do you go by the state comptrollers?
We adopted a resolution back, like say in August, that we had, once it was drafted and completed, I believe we took that to the personnel committee for recommendation. I then sent that to the comptroller for his approval of the parameters of that committee, and that's what we adopted. The parameters that was recommended, they were drafted by us here locally and approved by the comptroller.
Well, I've got a letter here from the assistant director of the comptroller of the treasurer, and it's got some things here that should be on an audit committee. One of them being to establish a process by which employees, taxpayers, and other citizens may confidentially report suspected illegal, improper, wasteful, or fraudulent activities under provisions of Tennessee Code Annotated 93406. Did what you adopt come into play under that?
Yes, sir. I believe that The resolution we adopted is one that he provided to us as a template. We just plugged in the membership parameters and our county's name. I have a copy of that here if you'd like to see it. And what you describe is certainly something that it would fall to this committee to address if there
All
were.
right, well, let me ask you this. How do you go about, how do you go about reporting illegal activity? What's the process?
That would be a question you need to make to this body as it sits here tonight.
Okay, I'm asking this body, what's the process of, if you know something illegal, improper, fraudulent?
I'm gonna ask the county attorney if he would. Maybe.
Three ways. You go to the grand jury and testify before the grand jury about information that you have. You go to the district attorney, make known to the district attorney what the information is, and you notify the comptroller. Those are the three things.
Notify the comptroller by what means? I don't
Well, you got a
imagine.
telephone, like you got to write a letter.
Well, what I'm saying is I don't think Mr. Wilson will take my call.
Well,
So,
I don't know why he won't take the call,
all right, I'll try that.
sir.
I'll try that.
I don't know why.
Okay, thank you.
He's got probably 4, 5, 15 assistants. Probably.
All right.
Mr. Williams, at what part would this committee play in that process? Before, during, or after?
More than likely, if it was alleged illegal activity, it would probably be after the fact. Because I don't think y'all got the staff or capability to investigate it. You don't have any staff accountants, you don't have any criminal investigators, anything. That's really, this committee is probably more of a sounding board than anything else. And certainly after the fact, as you have here with the comptroller's report, addressing these things that this committee can recommend to the county commission to implement. And as Judge Wallace said, you could satisfy that first one y'all discussed simply by hiring more people if you want to raise the taxes and appropriate the money.
Or a purchasing agent?
Sir?
Or a purchasing agent?
I go with several purchasing department. All that can be done as far as these they've written up. I mean, comptroller didn't report any findings of criminal activity. Now, whether or not they didn't look into it or not, I don't know. But if they had, more than likely, as we read in the paper not long ago of a sister community, a municipal community, allegations of criminal activity resulted in a grand jury indictment. This has been in the newspaper for recent order. So that's, people have information that a crime is getting committed, then they certainly behoove them to go to the grand jury or to the district attorney.
Thank you. Anyone else? Do we want to discuss a next meeting of the Audit Committee? Judge, do you have a particular need, or do we want to just wait till we have a need, or someone wants to do that too?
As far as mandated regularity, the only one I'm aware of is satisfaction of the 3-star parameters, and that is an annual meeting. But certainly I would think that this body would need to meet after the audit was published, or if there is recommendations coming from this committee to see and ensure that those recommendations are forwarded. It will this committee should make a report to the full commission in that report, if there were recommendations for any action, then that's the time you would make them to the commission. The commission would have to make the decision on whether to follow the recommendations. Probably in our next full meeting of the county commission, we'll ask you to make a report to the effect of what actions are recommended coming from here. Beyond that, until some situation surface that would require action as outlined by the resolution that created this body, then I would say just after the next audit's published.
Very good. Okay. Is there other business that needs to come before the audit committee?
I've got one other thing that I'd like to find where we are on, and that is the allegations of the misappropriation from the school system and where that was turned over to the auditors. Can you give us an update, or is that?
I contacted Jan Page, who is the audit manager for this district, who's supervisor over the auditors who do both typically the same auditor does the school system as does the general government. This year that was not the case. My understanding that a different auditor did the school system. But they will all work for her, and I contacted her to see if she could make a statement as to where that investigation is or went, and she replied to me that, and I quote, "I can't make an official statement regarding the school director or those allegations, as she's limited to making statements only about the published audit. However, that I can assume that if they had found anything, it would have been a part of the report that you have that was published."
Thank you.
Other business? Motion to adjourn? Nanny? Second? All in favor? Aye. John, We're adjourned.